The massive chamber floated in space like a silver bubble. Inside, representatives from 847 different species waited in their anti-gravity pods. The pods formed rings around a central platform, rising up and up until they disappeared into darkness above. This was the Galactic Council chamber, and today it would decide the fate of humanity. General Kang Tae-sung stood alone on the central platform. His uniform was perfectly pressed, dark blue with silver buttons that caught the light. He had been traveling for 3 weeks to get here, jumping through hostile space, wondering if he would even arrive alive. But he had made it. Now he stood under the eyes of nearly 1,000 alien species, all waiting to judge his people. The general was 52 years old. His hair had gone gray at the temples, and his face carried lines that spoke of too many hard decisions. He kept his hands clasped behind his back and his expression neutral. He had learned long ago not to show fear. High Arbiter Velshar floated in the largest pod at the top of the chamber. The Arbiter was a being made of living crystal, ancient beyond human understanding. Light moved through their body like thoughts made visible. When they spoke, their voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "We gathered today to address a grave matter," Velshar said. "The destruction of the Valdris Armada, 40,000 ships, 2 million souls, all destroyed by human weapons." A murmur ran through the chamber. Tae-sung did not move. He had expected this. To his left, Ambassador Jiwoo shifted nervously in her smaller pod. She was younger than him, maybe 35, and she still believed that words could fix anything. She wore the formal robes of Earth's diplomatic corps, green and gold. Her hands trembled slightly. "High Arbiter," Jiwoo began, her voice carrying through the translation systems. "If I may explain the circumstances." "You may not." The voice came from Counselor Draxus, representative of the Valdris Empire. He was a large being covered in dark scales with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red. "We have evidence of human aggression. We have debris fields. We have casualty reports. We have intercepted military communications showing premeditation." Holographic displays filled the air around Tae-sung. Images of destroyed ships spinning in space. Lists of names, thousands upon thousands. Audio recordings of human voices giving military orders. It all looked very bad for Earth. "The humans are a young species," another counselor said. This one looked like a floating jellyfish, translucent and pulsing with bioluminescence. "Perhaps they do not understand the laws of civilized warfare. They understand enough to build weapons of mass destruction," Draxus snapped. "They understand enough to use them without hesitation." Jiwoo tried again. "The Valdris fleet entered our system without permission. They refused all attempts at communication. They were establishing territorial rights," Draxus interrupted. "As permitted under galactic law, your system was unclaimed." "We have faster-than-light travel," Jiwoo said, her voice rising. "We have quantum communications. We have fusion power. By the Council's own classification system, we are a Class 7 civilization." The system was claimed. A technicality. Draxus waved one of his hands dismissively. "You had not yet registered with the Council. How were we to know you had reached sufficient development?" Velshar's voice cut through the argument. "Enough. This debate is not productive." The crystal being paused, light swirling inside their form. "The Council has reviewed the evidence presented by the Valdris Empire. It is substantial. However, before we proceed to judgment, we must hear from humanity." All eyes turned to Tae-sung. He had not spoken yet. He had stood there for 30 minutes, silent as stone, while others argued about his people's fate. Jiwoo looked at him desperately. She had been trying to save them with words, but words were not working. Draxus smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Perhaps the general has nothing to say. Perhaps humanity knows it has no defense for genocide." The smile was a mistake. Tae-sung had been waiting for Draxus to make a mistake. The Valdris representative had been too confident, too eager to display his victory. And now he pulled up his own holographic display, showing footage of what he called a scouting mission. The footage showed the Valdris fleet approaching Earth's solar system, 40,000 warships moving in perfect formation. The video was taken from the flagship and there was audio commentary. "Look at this primitive system," a Valdris voice said in the recording. "Only one inhabited world. This will be simple." "Shall we bother with communication protocols?" another voice asked. "Why? They cannot stop us." Draxus had meant to show his fleet's power. Instead, he had shown their arrogance. The chamber fell very quiet. Several counselors leaned forward in their pods. Tae-sung finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber with perfect clarity. Permission to address the council. Velshar studied him. The human had stood silent through all the accusations, all the evidence of destruction. He had not tried to defend himself or his species. He had simply waited. That took either great confidence or great despair. The arbiter was curious which it was. Permission granted, General Tae-sung. What do you wish to say? Tae-sung looked up at Draxus. Then he looked at all the counselors, turning slowly to meet as many eyes as he could. When he spoke, there was something in his voice that made even the oldest species in the chamber pay attention. I wish to present evidence, he said. The council has seen the Valdris version of events. I would like you to see ours. I would like you to see what happened from the perspective of the people who lived on that planet. The people who looked up and saw 40,000 warships appear in their sky. He pulled out a data chip from his uniform pocket. It was small, barely visible in his palm. This contains Earth sensor logs, our civilian communications, and our military records from the 3 months before the battle. If this council truly seeks justice, you will review all evidence, not just what supports one side. Draxus laughed. More human lies. More excuses for murder. Then you should have no fear of us reviewing them, said Counselor Tassara. She was one of the avian species, covered in silver feathers, with wings that she kept folded against her back. If the evidence supports your claims, Draxus, it will only strengthen your case. Velshar extended a crystalline tendril, and the data chip floated up from Tae-sung's hand. The council will review this evidence. We will reconvene in one standard cycle. High Arbiter, Tae-sung said. May I make one request? Speak. When you review our records, please start from the beginning. Start from the day we first detected the Valdris fleet. Watch everything in order as it happened. Do not skip ahead to the battle. See what we saw. Experience what we experienced. He paused. Then judge us. Something in his tone made several counselors uncomfortable. It was not defiance. It was not fear. It was something else. Something that suggested they did not know the full story. Velshar agreed. Very well. The council will review the evidence chronologically. We will see your truth, General, and then we will decide if it changes anything. The session ended. The anti-gravity pods began to drift away as representatives returned to their quarters. Jiwoo floated down to the platform where Tae-sung still stood. Do you think it will work? She asked quietly. Do you think they will understand? Tae-sung watched the last of the counselors disappear into the darkness above. They will understand what happened. Whether they care is another question. And if they do not care, he was quiet for a long moment. Then at least the truth will be in their records. When the next species faces what we faced, they will know they are not alone. They will know that someone else made the same choice. And they will know that choice has a price. Jiwoo looked at him carefully. She had worked with the general for 2 years, but she realized she did not really know him. What price did you pay, General? He did not answer. He simply turned and walked toward the exit, his boots echoing on the metal platform. Jiwoo watched him go and felt a chill. She wondered what the council would see in those records. She wondered what truth would be revealed. Most of all, she wondered if the truth would be enough. The council chamber hummed with activity as representatives filed back in. One standard cycle had passed, enough time for everyone to review the human evidence. Tae-sung noticed that many of the counselors looked different now. Some would not meet his eyes. Others stared at him with new intensity. High Arbiter Velshar took their position at the top of the chamber. The light inside their crystalline body moved faster than before, agitated. The council has reviewed Earth's evidence. We will now discuss our findings. Tae-sung stood on the central platform again. Jiwoo was beside him this time, her face pale. She had watched some of the evidence herself, preparing for this moment. She had not slept well. General Tae-sung, Velshar said. Your evidence begins 3 months before the battle. You want us to start there, very well. Tell the council what happened on that first day. Tae-sung stepped forward. 3 months ago, Captain Hana was commanding Ganymede Outpost. That is our deep space monitoring station on one of Jupiter's moons. Her job is to watch for anything unusual entering our solar system. He activated a hologram. It showed a young woman in a military uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a tight knot. She was sitting at a control console, and the timestamp showed it was 04:17 hours, Earth Standard Time. Unknown contacts, Hana said in the recording. Her voice was professional, but there was tension underneath. 40,000 signatures. All military grade. Entering the system at point Delta 7. Another voice responded, older and male. 40,000? Confirm that reading, Captain. Confirmed, sir. 40,000 warships. They are moving toward Earth. Tae-sung stopped the recording. That was the moment we knew. Our entire military has 2,000 ships. We detected a force 20 times our size entering our home system. He looked at Draxus. We immediately tried to establish communication. He played another recording. This one showed Admiral Hyon, an older woman with gray streaks in her black hair. She was Earth's defense coordinator, responsible for protecting the entire planet. She looked tired. This is Earth Defense Command broadcasting on all frequencies, Hyon said. Unknown vessels, you have entered our territory. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. We wish no conflict. Please respond. Silence. No response. That was message number 1, Tae-sung said. Over the next 2 weeks, we sent 87 more messages. We used every communication protocol we knew. We tried mathematics, binary code, visual patterns. We even tried music, thinking perhaps they communicated differently. He paused. They never responded once. The hologram changed, showing the Valdris fleet moving through space. They were in perfect formation, thousands of ships arranged in geometric patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying. While we sent messages, the Valdris fleet continued to approach Earth. They passed Mars. They passed our asteroid belt colonies. They ignored everything. Their destination was clear. Jiwoo spoke up. May I address the council? Velshar nodded. I want you to understand what was happening on Earth during those 2 weeks. We had to tell people. We had to warn them that an alien fleet was coming, and we did not know if they were friendly. She showed footage from Earth's surface, news broadcasts, people watching the sky, children asking their parents if the aliens would be nice, cities preparing evacuation procedures for billions of people with nowhere to go. This is Tokyo, Jiwoo said, pointing to a massive city lit up at night. 37 million people. This is Mumbai. This is Sao Paulo. This is Lagos. Billions of people living their lives, going to work, raising their children. They all knew the aliens were coming. They could see the fleet through telescopes, and they waited to see what would happen. Counselor Tassara leaned forward. Ambassador, the children. Did you evacuate them? Jiwoo's voice broke slightly. Evacuate them where? Earth is our only home. We have some colonies on Mars and the Moon, but they can only hold a few 100,000 people. We have nowhere else to go, so we put the children in shelters and hoped. Tae-sung resumed his presentation. On the 14th day, the Valdris fleet reached Earth orbit. They took up positions around our planet. 40,000 ships completely surrounding us. The hologram showed it clearly. Earth looked like a blue marble wrapped in a net of warships. Admiral Hyon sent one final message, Tae-sung said. He played it. The Admiral looked like she had aged 10 years. Her eyes were red, her uniform wrinkled. She had been awake for 60 hours straight. This is Earth Defense Command, Hyon said. Her voice shook with exhaustion and desperation. You have entered our home system without permission. You refuse all communication. We have families here, children, please just talk to us. Tell us what you want. We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution, please, she waited. For 10 long seconds she waited, staring at the camera, hoping for a response. None came. The chamber was completely silent now. Every representative watched, understanding what was coming. Tae-sung changed the hologram. This is what happened next. I warn you, it is difficult to watch. The hologram showed Earth from space. Peaceful, beautiful. Clouds drifted over oceans. The night side sparkled with city lights. Then, without warning, those lights began to go out. Not slowly. Instantly. Entire cities disappeared in flashes of brilliant light. The Valdris opened fire at 06:32 hours, Tae-sung said. His voice was steady, but his hands had curled into fists behind his back. They did not target military installations. They did not target our defense satellites. They targeted hospitals, schools, civilian population centers. The hologram showed cities dying: Seoul, London, New York, Beijing. Each one flashed and went dark, millions of lives ending in seconds. The first salvo lasted 20 seconds, Tae-sung continued. In those 20 seconds, 3 million people died. Most of them were asleep. They never knew what hit them. Several counselors made sounds of distress. Counselor Tisara had covered her eyes with one wing. Even Velshar's light had gone dim, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Only Counselor Draxus seemed unmoved. The Valdris were establishing dominance, he said. Standard military procedure for claiming territory. By murdering civilians? Tessara's voice was sharp. By attacking sleeping children? By demonstrating superior force, Draxus replied. Had the humans surrendered, no further loss of life would have occurred. Taesung turned to face Draxus directly. You think we should have surrendered after you killed 3 million civilians? After you proved you had no interest in communication? No respect for life, no mercy? Yes, Draxus said simply. Surrender would have saved billions. Surrender to genocide, Taesung said quietly. Surrender to a species that murders children to make a point. Tell me, Counselor Draxus, what would you have done with Earth once we surrendered? Would you have treated us kindly? Would you have respected our lives? Draxus said nothing. Jiwoo stepped forward. The Council should know that humanity has laws about warfare. We have rules. Even when we fight each other, we do not target civilians. We do not attack hospitals or schools. We consider it a crime. What the Valdris did in those first 20 seconds broke every law of war we have. She pulled up Galactic law on a side display. Article 7, Section 4. Systems with indigenous civilization above Class 2 development are considered claimed by default. Section 6. First contact must be peaceful. Section 11. Attacks on civilian populations are prohibited under all circumstances. She looked at Draxus. Your fleet violated at least 3 major laws before we ever fired a shot. The chamber erupted in conversation. Representatives arguing with each other, consulting legal databases, gesturing wildly. Felshar raised a crystalline hand and silence fell. General Taesung, the arbiter said, you have shown us the Valdris attack. Now show us your response. Show us why 40,000 ships no longer exist. Taesung nodded slowly. As you wish. But understand this, High Arbiter. What you're about to see is not murder. It is not aggression. It is not a war crime. He met the eyes of every counselor he could see. It is what happens when you back a species into a corner and threaten to destroy the only home they have ever known. It is what happens when you force someone to choose between slavery and extinction. It is what happens when you attack our home. He pressed a button and the hologram changed to show what happened next. The council leaned forward, unable to look away, even though many of them already knew how this story ended. The hologram showed Admiral Hyan again. She was standing on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Defender. Around her, officers rushed to their stations. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed across every surface. 3 million people had just died and everyone knew more deaths were coming. All ships, this is Defense Command, Hyan said. Her voice was different now. The exhaustion was gone, replaced by cold determination. Launch plan, Guardian. Protect Earth at all costs. The view changed to show space around Earth. 2,000 human ships launched from various positions. They were smaller than the Valdris vessels, less advanced, built over decades of slow technological progress. They looked like children's toys compared to the massive alien warships. Earth's entire military, Taesung explained to the council. Every ship we had, every pilot who could fly, every soldier who could fight. Against 40,000 Valdris warships. He paused. Admiral Hyan knew it was suicide. Every person who launched knew they would not come back. The hologram showed a pilot in his cockpit. He was young, maybe 25. His name appeared on the display, Lieutenant Jae-hyun. He was talking to someone through his communication system. Mom, if you are watching this, I want you to know I am not scared, Jae-hyun said. His hands were shaking on the controls, showing that he was, in fact, terrified. I know what I am doing. I know why I am doing it. Hyunji is down there. Your granddaughter. She is only 4 years old. I need to keep her safe. I need to keep all of them safe. He smiled, though tears ran down his face. Tell her Daddy loved her. Tell her I tried my best. The transmission ended. Jae-hyun's ship accelerated toward the Valdris fleet. Thousands of other ships did the same, spreading out to form a defensive line between the enemy and Earth. In the council chamber, Counselor Tessara made a soft sound of grief. She had children. She understood what that pilot had been protecting. The battle began. Human ships fired everything they had. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. The Valdris fleet responded with overwhelming force. The space between Earth and its attackers filled with weapons fire and explosions. The battle lasted 6 hours, Taesung said. Earth lost 1,847 ships, 93% casualties. We destroyed 800 Valdris vessels. Against their 40,000, it barely mattered. The hologram showed human ships dying. One by one, they disappeared in flashes of light. But they did not run. They did not retreat. Even when defeat was certain, they kept fighting, kept buying time. Time for what? Asked Velshar. If your forces were losing, what were they buying time for? Taesung looked at the Arbiter. Plan Omega. Jiwoo brought up a new display. It showed technical documents 50 years old. Plan Omega was created when humanity first developed faster-than-light travel. Our leaders knew we might encounter other species. They hoped for peaceful contact. But they also prepared for the worst. The documents showed a network of devices spread throughout the solar system, thousands of small objects hidden among asteroids, on moons, in the rings of Saturn, buried on Mars. Quantum mines, Jiwoo explained. Each one is a compact fusion device linked to a quantum trigger. They have been hidden for decades, maintained in secret, hoping they would never be needed. They were designed for one purpose: to destroy any fleet that threatened Earth itself. The council chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Velshar called for order, but it took several minutes before everyone quieted down. You placed weapons of mass destruction throughout your own system? Councillor Draxus demanded. That is barbaric. That is insurance, Taesung cut him off. We are 8,000 light-years from the nearest council world. We are alone out here. We do not have allies. We do not have the luxury of calling for help and having it arrive in time. So we made sure that anyone who came to conquer us would pay a terrible price. He returned to the hologram. It showed Admiral Hyan on the bridge of the Defender. Her ship was damaged, leaking atmosphere. Half her crew was dead. The battle was nearly lost. Commander, one of her officers said, we have lost 90% of our forces. The Valdris fleet is preparing for a second bombardment of the surface. We cannot stop them. Hyun looked at the tactical display. She could see the Valdris ships moving into position. She could see the cities they were targeting. Seoul, Mumbai, Cairo, Lagos. Billions of people about to die. She opened a private channel. On the screen appeared a woman with kind eyes and gray hair. Her wife Yoon. I love you, Hyun said simply. I am sorry I could not protect everyone. But I can do this one last thing. I can make sure they do not win. Yoon was crying. Our children are down there, she whispered. Keep them safe. I will, Hyun promised. I will. She closed the channel and turned to her remaining crew. Evacuate the bridge. Get to the escape pods. That is an order. Admiral, we will not leave you, her second officer protested. You will. Hyun said quietly. Someone needs to survive to tell them what we did here. Someone needs to make sure Earth remembers. She smiled sadly. Go, I will be fine. The crew evacuated. Hyun waited until the bridge was empty. Then she pulled up the activation system for Plan Omega. It required 3 levels of authorization. She had all 3. Her hand hovered over the final button. Forgive me, she whispered to the 2 million Valdris soldiers who were about to die. But you should not have come to our home. She pressed the button. The hologram showed what happened next. Throughout the solar system, thousands of quantum mines activated simultaneously. They created a cascading quantum field, linked across vast distances through technology the Council did not fully understand. The Valdris fleet, packed tightly in orbit for their bombardment, had no chance to react. The detonation was not an explosion in the traditional sense. It was a wave of energy that unmade matter at the quantum level. Ships did not burn. They simply ceased to exist. 40,000 warships vanished in 3 seconds, leaving nothing but scattered atoms. The council chamber was silent. Many representatives had never seen such destruction. The efficient, complete annihilation of an entire armada. No survivors, no escape. Just emptiness where 40,000 ships had been. 2 million lives, Councillor Draxus said, his voice shaking with rage. You murdered 2 million soldiers. Taesung turned to face him. For the first time, emotion showed on his face: anger, grief, pain. 2 million soldiers, he repeated. Soldiers who came to my home system uninvited. Soldiers who ignored 87 attempts at peaceful communication. Soldiers who murdered 3 million civilians while they slept. Soldiers who were preparing to kill billions more. He stepped closer to Draxus's pod. You want to talk about murder? Let me tell you about murder. My daughter was named Yoonji. She was 7 years old. She loved to draw pictures of stars and planets. She wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up. She wanted to explore the galaxy and meet aliens and see all the wonderful things the universe had to offer. His voice broke. She died in the first salvo. In Seoul, a Valdris weapon hit her school. She was in art class, drawing pictures of stars, and your people killed her to establish dominance. The chamber was absolutely silent. Even Draxus seemed shocked. 3 million people like Yunji, Taesung continued. 3 million people who never asked for war, who never threatened anyone, who were just living their lives on the only planet they had ever known. And you think we should have surrendered? You think we should have let your fleet continue? You think we should have valued your soldiers' lives over the lives of every remaining human on Earth? He looked up at all the counselors. Let me be very clear about something. We did not start this war. We did not want this war. But when your species brought war to our home, we finished it. And we do not apologize for surviving. Jiwoo pulled up medical records. After the battle, our hospitals were overwhelmed. Dr. Sumin, one of our best trauma surgeons, worked for 72 hours straight treating survivors from the bombardment. She saved hundreds of lives. But she could not save her own son. He was 11 years old. He died while she was in surgery, saving someone else's child. She showed pictures, children with burns, adults missing limbs, entire families that no longer existed. This is the price Earth paid. This is what the Valdris did to us. And you expect us to feel guilty about defending ourselves? Counselor Tessara spoke, her voice thick with emotion. High Arbiter, I must speak. The Avian Confederacy has laws about this. We call them the Nest Sanctity Laws. Our first world, our original home, is protected absolutely. Any attack on that world is met with total response. We would do exactly what Earth did. Other counselors began murmuring. Several pulled up their own species laws, ancient protections for homeworlds, rules that had been forgotten as their species spread across multiple planets. But the laws were still there, buried in legal codes. Belshar watched it all, their crystalline form pulsing with thought. Finally, they spoke. The council will recess. We must consider what we have learned. General Taesung, Ambassador Jiwoo, you may return to your quarters. As Taesung walked toward the exit, he felt hollow. Talking about Yunji had opened old wounds. But it had been necessary. The council needed to understand. They needed to know what was at stake. They needed to understand that Earth was not negotiable. They needed to understand that humanity would do anything, pay any price, accept any cost. The council chamber felt different when they reconvened. The atmosphere had shifted. Representatives who had been certain of humanity's guilt now looked troubled. Those who had supported the Valdris were quieter. Everyone had spent the recess thinking about what they had seen. Taesung stood on the central platform again. Jiwoo was beside him, hands folded carefully. They both knew this session would be critical. The council had seen the evidence. Now they had to decide what it meant. High Arbiter Velshar spoke first. General Taesung, the council has reviewed all evidence. We have discussed extensively. Before we make our determination, I have one question. It may seem hypothetical, but I assure you the answer matters greatly. Taesung nodded. Ask, High Arbiter. If the Valdris fleet had attacked one of your outer colonies instead of Earth itself, what would humanity have done? Would you have still activated Plan Omega? Would you have destroyed them so completely? The chamber went silent. Every representative leaned forward. This was the question that would reveal everything about humanity. Were they ruthless killers who would respond to any threat with total destruction? Or was there something special about Earth? Taesung took a breath. If the Valdris had attacked Mars or Europa or Titan, we would have negotiated. We would have tried diplomacy. We would have fought if necessary, but within reasonable limits. We would have sought council arbitration. We would have followed galactic law. He paused. We would have treated it as a normal territorial dispute. Relief showed on several faces. The answer they had hoped for. But Taesung was not finished. But they did not attack a colony, he continued, his voice hardening. They attacked Earth. They killed civilians who had never left their homeworld. Children who did not even know aliens existed. People who were born there, lived there, and expected to die there in peace. Jiwoo stepped forward. High Arbiter, may I explain the human doctrine on warfare? It is officially registered in the Galactic database, submitted when we first joined the council. Velshar gestured for her to proceed. Jiwoo pulled up the document. It appeared in the air, written in hundreds of languages so every representative could read it in their native tongue. The human doctrine states, we will respect all sovereign territories. We will pursue peace wherever possible. We will follow galactic law and work within the council system. We will negotiate, compromise, and seek mutual benefit. Jiwoo looked around the chamber. This is what we promised. This is what we want. She paused, then read the next section. However, understand this clearly. Earth is not negotiable. Mars, Europa, Titan, Proxima Centauri. These can be discussed. These can be bargained over. But Earth is where humanity was born, where our ancestors are buried, where every human culture, religion, language, and tradition originated. It is the line we will never allow anyone to cross. The final paragraph appeared, written in bold letters. If you come to Earth in peace, we will show you wonders. We will share our art, our music, our stories. We will be your friends and allies. But if you come to Earth with weapons, understand that you are choosing to test the resolve of a species with nothing left to lose. Choose wisely. Counselor Draxus made a dismissive sound. Primitive sentimentality. Most spacefaring species have dozens of worlds. Why should one planet matter so much? Because we only have one, Taesung said simply. Your species has had thousands of years to spread across the galaxy. You have backup. If one world falls, your species survives. We do not have that luxury. We have Earth. Only Earth. If we lose it, we lose everything. Counselor Tassara stood up in her pod. High Arbiter, I must speak. Draxus calls it primitive sentimentality, but he is wrong. The Avian Confederacy has 53 worlds now. But our first world, the world where our species evolved, where we first looked up at the stars and dreamed of flying among them, that world is still sacred to us. She spread her wings wide. We have a law, the Nest Sanctity Law. If any species attacks our original homeworld, we respond with every resource we have. We do not negotiate. We do not compromise. We protect the nest always. Other counselors began speaking up. A being made of flowing water said, The Aquarius Federation has similar laws. Our birth ocean is forbidden territory. We would die to defend it. A reptilian representative added, The Saurian Dominion maintains the first hatching grounds as sacred. No weapon has ever been fired there. We would respond exactly as Earth did if someone threatened it. Velshar raised a crystalline hand. It seems many species have similar protections buried in ancient laws. Perhaps we have forgotten how important a homeworld can be when we have so many others. They turned to Taesung. But General, your response was not just defensive. It was absolute. You could have disabled the Valdris fleet. Your quantum mines could have been calibrated to damage rather than destroy. Why did you choose annihilation? This was the moment Taesung had been waiting for. The real question. The one that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. He looked up at Velshar, his expression serious. Because we needed to send a message, he said. Earth is 8,000 light-years from the nearest council world. We are alone out here, High Arbiter. We do not have neighbors to call for help. We do not have allies nearby. We do not have the luxury of half-measures and warnings. He stepped forward. So we needed every species in this galaxy to understand something very clearly. If you come to Earth with peaceful intentions, we will welcome you with open arms. We will trade with you, learn from you, share everything we have. But if you come with weapons, if you threaten our home, you had better be prepared to commit genocide, because that is what it will take to conquer Earth. Total extermination. Nothing less. His voice grew harder. And we will make sure you cannot. We will make the price so high that no one will ever try again. The Valdris brought 40,000 ships to kill us. They killed 3 million of us before we could respond. And we destroyed them so completely that nothing remains. No survivors to go home and tell stories of their glorious campaign. No wreckage to salvage and study. Just empty space where an armada used to be. Several counselors looked uncomfortable. The strategy was brutal, but it was also logical. Make the cost of attacking Earth so terrible that no one would dare try. You are threatening the entire galaxy, Draxus said. You are saying that any species who opposes you will face extinction. No. Taesung replied. I am saying that any species who attacks our home will face extinction. There is a difference. You can oppose us politically. You can compete with us economically. You can argue with us in this council. We will not use weapons for those things. But if you bring warships to Earth, if you target our cities, if you threaten our children, then yes, you will face everything we have. And you will lose. Jiwoo added, We have submitted detailed plans for peaceful cooperation. Trade agreements, technology sharing, cultural exchange programs. We want to be part of the galactic community. We want friends and allies, but friendship requires respect, and respect requires understanding our boundaries. A counselor from the Crystal Collective spoke. their voice like chiming bells. But this leaves us in a difficult position. If we accept your actions, we set a precedent. Other species might claim similar justification for total warfare. If we condemn you, we punish a species for defending its only home. There is no easy answer here. Velshar nodded slowly. You are correct. This is perhaps the most difficult case the Council has faced in centuries. We must balance justice with compassion, law with understanding, precedent with circumstance. The arbiter turned to Tai Sung. General, you have shown us your evidence. You have explained your reasoning. You have shared your pain. But I must ask you one more thing. Do you regret what happened? Do you wish there had been another way? Tai Sung thought of Yunji, her bright smile, her drawings of stars, the empty place at the dinner table where she used to sit. He thought of Admiral Hyan, who died alone on her bridge to save billions. He thought of Lieutenant Jae-hyun, who flew into certain death to protect his daughter. He thought of the 2 million Valdris soldiers who never went home. Every day, he said quietly, every day I wish there had been another way. I wish the Valdris had responded to our communications. I wish they had not murdered 3 million civilians. I wish we could have found peace. He looked directly at Velshar, but we did not get that choice. They made their decision. We made ours, and I will not apologize for choosing to save the billions of humans still alive over the millions of Valdris soldiers who came to kill us. He straightened. If that makes us monsters in the eyes of this council, so be it. We will accept your judgment, but we will never accept guilt for surviving. We will never accept blame for defending our home, and we will never hesitate to do it again if we must. The chamber was completely silent. 847 species, thousands of years of combined civilization, all watching one human general who refused to bow, who refused to apologize for protecting his people, who stood alone and accepted whatever judgment would come, but would not compromise on the one truth that mattered. Earth was home, and home was worth everything. Velshar's light pulsed slowly, thoughtfully. The council must deliberate. This session is... Behind closed doors, the Galactic Council deliberated. The chamber was sealed, no recordings allowed. 847 representatives argued about the fate of humanity and the precedent this case would set for centuries to come. High Arbiter Velshar listened to them all. Some demanded harsh punishment for Earth. Others insisted the Valdris were entirely to blame. Most fell somewhere in between, struggling with the complexity of it all. Counselor Rix from the merchant guilds stood to speak. He was a pragmatic being, covered in sleek fur, with sharp eyes that saw opportunities and risks everywhere. We need to think about the political consequences. If we punish Earth, we tell every species in this galaxy that defending your homeworld is a crime. How many of us have similar laws buried in our codes? How many of us would vote to condemn ourselves? A counselor from the Silicon Collective responded, their voice synthesized through mechanical speakers. But if we do not punish Earth, we tell aggressive species that total warfare is acceptable. We encourage escalation. Where does it end? Counselor Tessera spread her wings. You are both missing the point. This was not total warfare. This was defensive response. The Valdris attacked first. They murdered civilians. They refused all communication. They violated at least 3 major council laws before humanity fired a single shot. Draxus stood up, his forearms gesturing angrily. The humans still overreacted. They could have disabled our fleet. They chose genocide instead. Counselor Thane, a military advisor from the warrior caste, gave Draxus a cold look. Your fleet came to commit genocide, Draxus. The humans simply finished what you started. The difference is they won. You cannot complain about the cost of war when you were the one who declared it. The debate continued for hours. Velshar let them argue, watching the patterns emerge. Some species, particularly younger ones or those with single homeworlds, sympathized with Earth. Others, older and spread across many systems, found humanity's response excessive. Still others simply did not care and wanted to move on to other business. Finally, Counselor Rick spoke again. I propose a compromise. We declare this a mutual conflict. Both sides share blame. Both pay minor reparations to each other. We close the case and move forward. It is clean, simple, and offends no one too badly. Many counselors nodded. It was a politically safe solution. No one would have to make a hard choice. No precedent would be set. Everything could go back to normal. Velshar raised a crystalline hand, and the chamber fell silent. No. The single word echoed through the space. Counselors looked at each other in surprise. The High Arbiter rarely spoke so decisively. This council was founded on principles, Velshar continued. Truth, justice, the protection of innocent life. If we cannot uphold those principles in the difficult cases, then we have no right to govern. If we choose convenience over righteousness, we betray everything we claim to represent. The Arbiter's light grew brighter. The evidence is clear. The Valdris entered a claimed system without permission. They ignored 87 attempts at communication. They targeted and murdered 3 million civilians in the first salvo. These are facts, not opinions. Draxus tried to interrupt, but Velshar continued. The humans responded with defensive force to protect their homeworld. Yes, their response was severe. Yes, it resulted in massive casualties, but it was in direct response to an act of attempted genocide. Under our own laws, homeworld defense is considered justifiable. Meanwhile, in their quarters, Tae-sung and Jiwoo waited. They had been waiting for 6 hours now. Jiwoo paced nervously. Tae-sung sat by a window looking out at the stars. Tell me about her, Jiwoo said suddenly. Tell me about Yoonji. Tae-sung was quiet for a long moment. She was brilliant. Too smart for her own good sometimes. She asked questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Where do stars come from? Are there other people out there among the stars? He smiled sadly. I told her yes. I told her someday we would meet them. I told her it would be wonderful. His voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. The first aliens she ever knew about were the ones who killed her. I wonder if she had time to understand what was happening. I hope she did not. I hope it was quick. Jiwoo sat down beside him. I am sorry. I should not have asked. No, it is fine. People should remember her. People should know why this matters so much. He looked at Jiwoo. This is not about revenge. It is about making sure no other parent has to lose their child the way I lost mine. If the galaxy learns one thing from this, I hope it is that. I hope they learn that some lines should never be crossed. A chime sounded. They were being summoned back to the council chamber. Jiwoo stood up, smoothing her robes nervously. Tae-sung rose more slowly, his face calm, but his hands trembling slightly. Whatever happens, Jiwoo said. We told the truth. We showed them who we are. That has to count for something. Tae-sung nodded. It does. Even if they condemn us, the truth is in their records now. Future generations will know what really happened. That is enough. They walked to the council chamber together. The doors opened and they stepped back onto the central platform. All 847 representatives were present. The tension in the air was thick enough to feel. High Arbiter Velshar looked down at them. General Tae-sung, Ambassador Jiwoo, the council has reached a decision. However, before we announce our verdict, there is one more testimony we wish to hear. Tae-sung and Jiwoo exchanged confused glances. Another testimony? From whom? A side door opened. A woman in a military uniform walked out. Tae-sung recognized her immediately. Captain Hana from Ganymede Outpost. She had been the first to detect the Valdris fleet. What could she possibly add that was not already in the evidence? Hana took her place beside them on the platform. She looked tired, like she had traveled far to be here. She probably had. Velshar gestured for her to speak. High Arbiter, counselors, I was there, Hana began. I watched the Valdris fleet for 2 weeks. I listened to Admiral Hyan send message after message. I saw Earth's desperate attempts at peace. She paused. But there is something the General did not tell you. Something I found in the data. She pulled up a holographic display. While the Valdris fleet was approaching Earth, they were running simulations. Not military simulations, casualty simulations. They were calculating how to kill the maximum number of humans with minimum effort. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Hana continued. They tested different targeting patterns. Schools versus hospitals. Day strikes versus night strikes. They optimized for death. This was not conquest. This was extermination. They came to Earth to wipe us out before we became strong enough to resist. She showed the data. Cold, mathematical calculations of human death. Different scenarios, all ending with billions of casualties. The Valdris had planned it all in advance. Draxus stood up, his voice shaking. This is a lie. This data is fabricated. It is taken directly from Valdris communication systems, Hana replied calmly. Encrypted and locked. But encryption does not work when your fleet no longer exists and we have all the time in the world to break it. She looked at Draxus. Your people came to murder every human on Earth. Do not pretend this was about territorial rights. The evidence was irrefutable. Computer logs, communication records, targeting algorithms designed specifically to maximize civilian casualties. The Valdris had not come to conquer. They had come to commit genocide. Velshar's light pulsed rapidly, showing agitation. Counselor Draxus, did you know about this? Draxus said nothing. His silence was answer enough. He had known. He had come to this council knowing full well that his fleet had planned mass murder, and he had still tried to blame Earth. The Arbiter stood, their form growing larger, light blazing bright enough to hurt. This council has seen enough. The Valdris Empire stands accused of attempted genocide, premeditated murder of civilians, violation of territorial sovereignty, and deception before this body. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Velshar turned to face all the representatives. The verdict is as follows. The Valdris Empire is found guilty on all charges. You will pay reparations of 5 trillion credits to Earth. Your military will be reduced by 80%. Your council seat is suspended for 50 standard years. You will never again be permitted to maintain a fleet within 100 light years of Earth. Then Velshar turned to Taesung. Humanity is found to have acted within legal bounds of self-defense. Your response, while severe, was justified given the circumstances. No charges will be filed. No reparations will be required. Earth's council membership is confirmed. Relief flooded through Jiwoo. They had won. Justice had been served. Earth was safe. But Velshar was not finished. However, the Arbiter continued, the Council notes the severity of your defensive measures. General Taesung, your species has been judged today, but understand that you have also been judged by the galaxy. You will find both allies who respect your strength and enemies who fear it. How you navigate that reality will determine humanity's future among the stars. Taesung stood straight. High Arbiter, let me be very clear. Humanity does not seek to be feared. We seek to be left in peace. We will be good neighbors, fair traders, and loyal allies. We will contribute to this council, share our knowledge, and work toward mutual prosperity. He paused, his voice growing harder.